Hey there, welcome to our latest episode of What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Scherenbrock here with Chris Shooker of Digital Horizons. And I want to talk about a topic that I know it's a product that you guys have had for a long time, window treatments, but more specifically, you guys are moving into and like really deep diving in with Lutron.
Yep.
So I thought let's start with some basics about window treatments in general, but
Sure.
What are motorized shades?
Yeah, super basic. To your point, we've been installing motorized window treatments, shades, drapes, things like that for over a decade now. It was something that we started doing almost as soon as our business started back in 2013. What are motorized shades? So it probably seems like a really basic question, but there's a lot to it. So motorized shades are a shade that's motorized. But beyond that, they come in lots of different shapes and sizes.
Okay.
So what you are probably more used to seeing is just a regular roller shade.
Yep.
And lots of different versions of that, but essentially a roller shade is one type of a motorized shade where the shade just rolls off a roller.
Sure.
And there's a motor inside. But as technology has advanced, they've gone beyond just doing a roller style, and now you can do wood blinds that are motorized. The wood blinds from Lutron come in a couple different versions. You can have a version that just tilts, and it's constantly, it's always down, but it just tilts. And then they have a version also that will actually raise and lower and tilt. And then in addition to that, there's a Honeycomb shade that's motorized. At the time of when we recorded this, we just finished up an installation actually up in International Falls.
Oh, wow.
And there were about 15 Lutron Honeycomb shades on that project. And one of the unique things, since I'm on the topic, that I really like about Honeycomb shades that doesn't happen very often is you can do what's called a field cut on the Honeycomb shade. And the reason that is important on this particular installation is in a couple of the spaces, there were windows that were about 150 inches wide, about 13 or 14 feet.
Yeah, that's a big window.
And at the bottom, there was this detail in the home where the windows, the side windows, actually went into these kind of stone accents. So kind of like a stone wainscot, if you will.
Okay.
And so if we weren't able to do this field cut of the Honeycomb shade, the shade could have only come down far enough to where the stone was, and then the bottom, 2 or 3 feet by, whatever it was, 10 feet, would have had no shade. So we did our measurements and our calculations, and we ordered them as we needed to. And we actually worked with Lutron because where we needed to do these field cuts, up in the motor part of the Honeycomb shade is where they have the spindles that the wire in the Honeycomb shade rolls up into.
Okay.
And there's an exacting equal spool at the bottom.
Got it.
And we actually had to have those moved in engineering so that when we did our field cut, we weren't interrupting where those wires were. So as we went to install the shade, we lowered it, did our measurements, we cut the hem bar, and then we cut off a corresponding amount of the fabric. And so the Honeycomb shade will drop, and then the side pieces will get to where they need to stop, which is at the top of this stone accent, and then the middle part continues downward. And one thing that we found out, because we don't do field cuts very often, is Lutron from the factory balances their shade to within ounces. So we actually did this field cut and took off 2 or 3 ounces of the shade overall, maybe a little bit more.
Sure.
And the shade started behaving differently. We would drop it, and then it would just start creeping up. And it's because ultimately we found out is that it's balanced. All the tensioning and everything is balanced on the overall weight. And when we cut out part of the shade, we threw the balance off, and then we actually had to go in and add some weight to the rest of it to calculate it. And it just goes to show how crazy detailed they are on the engineering side of things, that they were that precise that just cutting out a little bit of the fabric threw off the balance.
I mean, it's sort of like gives new meaning to like a smart shade.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really smart feature that you just wouldn't even, I'm sure the average homeowner just wouldn't even consider the usefulness of
Correct.
that.
And I think what it really boils down to is just how precise they are in knowing how much effort the motor needs to put into raising
Yes.
and lowering.
Yes.
Because these particular shades, while they can be battery operated, we ordered them low voltage powered because there was
Sure.
wire in place. But if they were battery powered, that level of engineering and care to balance so that the motor doesn't work any harder than it has to just means you're going to get even more battery life, which means you're going to have to change batteries that less frequently.
Yeah, which is a nice advantage
Yeah.
to have too. So, all right, good. That was a great introduction to motorized shades. So make sure that you stay tuned for this series to learn more about them. And thank you for joining us today.